Throughout history, swimwear has reflected societal norms, technological advancements, and our shifting attitudes towards the human body. Join me as we dive into the evolution of swimwear from ancient civilizations to the modern beach. And we will explore how this tiny garment made a huge splash in fashion and culture. Unsurprisingly, we've been wearing swimwear for thousands of years, and as you can see in this gorgeous, stunning 4th century mosaic, Roman women would wear outfits that were made of 2 pieces that covered the bust and the hips to allow for easy movement when they were exercising and swimming. This outfit of theirs wouldn't look that out of place at the beach today, even though the bikini as we know it wasn't invented until the 1940s. Just as it is today, in ancient Greece and Rome, swimming and bathing were integral parts of daily life, especially for the upper classes. Greek women usually swam naked or wearing simple loincloths, whilst Roman women wore these bandeau-like tops called strophium with simple briefs as depicted in these beautiful mosaics from La Villa Romana del Casale in Sicily. These garments were used for exercise and leisure, highlighting a more relaxed attitude towards the female body in public spaces. To be very honest, I find this topic very fascinating, especially from this point of view where when I think of these ancient societies, the Greeks, the Romans, but particularly the Minoans, on which I will make another video much more in depth in the future, I'm drawn to their natural appreciation and normalization of the human body, which stands in stark, heartbreaking contrast with what transpired in the following centuries with the arrival of monotheistic religions. They celebrated physicality as a natural part of life and depicted it in their literature and art, as well as included it in their daily events ranging from religious ceremonies and rituals as well as athletic events. And it wasn't so much about mere exposure as much as it was about the naturalness of the human body and its integration into the fabric of society. Of course, these societies were far from perfect and had their own issues and still had to adhere to certain rules and norms when it came to dress code and nudity. However, their attitude towards the human body still stood in stark contrast to what would later come with the spread of religious doctrine. With the rise of monotheistic religions came a shift towards viewing the human body through a lens of shame and sin, and what was once celebrated as natural and normal became obscured by these strict notions of modesty, objectivization, and moral scrutiny. So I think that all of these notions of supposed purity, sin, and morality regarding the human body ironically did much more bad to humanity than good, because it shifted our perspective towards the human body from a simple, natural state of being, and that's all it is, to immediately a sexualized perspective by making it so secret and shame, surrounded by shame and mystery. Because the more something is mysterious and scandalous and forbidden, the more it's intriguing and the more we automatically look at it in a sexual way. And this obviously is harmful to society, and it's ironic because the purpose of religious indoctrination, at least from what is apparent, is to make us less sexually oriented, and it, in my opinion, did the absolute opposite. And thus, the human body transformed into an object of desire, hate, shame, and mystery all at once, whilst the Romans and the Greeks remind us of a time when it was more than that, when it was more than just physicality, but rather a reflection of nature, beauty, strength, and the divine. And this tragic loss of innocence and human connection was replaced by centuries of religious indoctrination and cultural conditioning that continues to influence us today. The fall of the Roman Empire would see a huge drastic decrease in the popularity of water-based activities and sports. Europeans across the continent were really quick to see the ocean as a source of uncleanliness and disease, so bathing moved to be something done exclusively at bathing houses, and Britain took this a step further by introducing rules and etiquettes about bathing attire, etc., and moving towards more prudish ideals despite thousands of years of people bathing communally. So during the 18th and 19th centuries, the British leisure and swimwear underwent significant transformations, mirroring shifts in societal norms, technological advancements, and leisure activities. The resurgence of seaside activities amongst the upper classes of the 1700s was a result of these new beliefs in the health benefits of bathing in the chilly British waters, setting the stage for the evolution of swimwear. Bathing costumes of the 1700s were as much about functionality as they were about fashion. Women donned loose, heavy gowns made from wool or flannel, often layered over bloomer-like trousers and stockings. And these outfits were cumbersome and restrictive when wet, and were designed primarily to maintain modesty rather than facilitate an ease of movement. The gowns were even weighted with small pieces of lead sewn into the hems to prevent them from floating up, ensuring that even a brief dip into the sea still adhered to the strict propriety of Georgian society. As the 18th century progressed, the Industrial Revolution swept across Britain, transforming the landscapes and facilitating new modes of transportation. The advent of railways made seaside destinations more accessible, expanding the popularity of coastal resorts from beyond the aristocracy to include the middle and working classes. But despite the democratization of leisure travel, swimwear remained deeply rooted in the ideals of modesty and decorum, especially among women. The early 19th century witnessed the introduction of bathing machines, mobile tiny houses drawn into the water by horses. And these contraptions provided a private and discreet space for individuals to change into their swimwear, shielding them from public view and upholding societal standards at the beach. And the bathing machine became an iconic symbol of Victorian seaside culture, embodying both the desire for leisurely seaside retreats and the rigid societal expectations of the era. Surprisingly, until the mid-1800s, there were no uniform laws in Britain regarding public nudity while swimming, so each town set its own rules, which allowed the lower classes to continue the centuries-old tradition of swimming in bodies of water in the nude, which was in stark contrast with the Victorian sensibilities and etiquettes. By the late 19th century, however, social norms and technological advancements were evolving, paving the way for more practical and comfortable swimwear. The princess gown, popularized in the Victorian era, marked a significant departure from the heavy gowns of the previous centuries. This one-piece garment featured a blouse attached to trousers and a mid-calf skirt, designed to maintain modesty while allowing for greater freedom of movement in the water. The princess suit not only revolutionized women's swimwear, but also foreshadowed the development of the modern one-piece swimsuit. Annette Kellerman, the daring Australian swimmer known as the Australian Mermaid, played a pivotal role in changing societal attitudes towards women's swimwear in the early 1900s. Renowned for her talent as a swimmer and her bold attempts to conquer the English Channel, Annette wasn't just making waves in the water, she was transforming fashion itself. Her iconic swimsuit, resembling today's competitive swimwear but with a slightly longer cut, defied the heavy, layered swimwear of the past. It was a statement of liberation and modernity in women's fashion. Annette famously said, "I can't swim wearing more stuff than you can hang on a clothesline. In 1905, her fame led to an invitation to perform for the British royal family. However, her form-fitting swimsuit, which revealed a scandalous amount of leg, was deemed unsuitable for royal eyes. Annette was unwilling to compromise on her performance, so she ingeniously sewed some black stockings onto her swimsuit to meet the stringent modesty requirements of the time. Annette's story captivated Hollywood, inspiring the 1952 movie starring Esther Williams, Million Dollar Mermaid, which brought her life and achievement to the silver screen. The film celebrated her groundbreaking influence on swimwear and her fearless spirit in challenging societal norms. The early 1900s was a period of fashion liberation, fueled by material advancements as well as bold icons like Annette Kellerman. Swimming, once a novelty, was gaining ground as a competitive sport, and its inclusion in the 1912 Olympics opened new doors for female athletes. Annette's influence extended beyond the pool, ushering in an era of less restrictive, more practical swimwear and challenging societal norms. And yet, her bold fashion choices also sparked controversies and crackdowns on perceived immodesty in swimwear across parts of the world. Annette faced another challenge in Boston when her swimsuit was deemed indecent during a race. However, the judge's ruling in her favor acknowledged that heavy, ill-fitting swimsuits were not appropriate for professional, serious races, and bolstered her stance on swimwear modernization. So this particular incident was widely publicized in the media and could have ended up liberating female swimsuit. However, what ended up happening was that the police started enforcing these strict rules when it came to clothing conduct policies across the world. This was notably exemplified in the United States with the presence of swimwear police patrolling the beaches, and in parts of Europe as well. Almost like these guys never have anything useful to do. These authorities often patrol the beaches, measuring the length and coverage of women's swimsuits and even arresting those deemed to be wearing excessively revealing outfits. In the 1920s and 1930s, incidents of women being fined or escorted off beaches for wearing swimsuits that showed too much skin were not uncommon. This era of surveillance highlights the tension between fashion trends and traditional norms of decency, as well as the importance of the evolution of swimwear as a symbolic battleground for personal freedoms. In the 1910s, Johnston, originally known as Portland Knitting Company, who was making these rowing club suits tailored in wool, started noticing the market demand and adapting to it by offering their products to a broader audience, and in 1921 they officially called their creation a swimsuit for the first time. Meanwhile, in Australia, Speedo began experimenting with swimwear in 1914 and introduced this all-in-one garment with vest style or short-sleeved top and long legs. Right now, if you notice differences in the way I look and the lighting, it's because this is the next day. The video took so long and the light was going away, so I had to continue the next day. Anyways, moving on. Johnston revolutionized swimwear with their more practical and lighter designs, and they unveiled their first swimsuit in 1913, which was revolutionary because it was much lighter than the previous heavier designs. It weighed a mere 8 pounds, which is 3.6 kilograms when wet, which was a revolution at the time. And they also played a pivotal role in promoting swimming as a sport, and they even marketed their products by creating events and swimming lessons. Post World War I, swimwear started to diverge across the continent. In the US, they had more sporty and practical designs reflecting the society's health-conscious behavior and promoting healthy lifestyles and physical activity to women, whereas across the Atlantic in Europe and especially in France, women were wearing these much more fashion-forward and body-hugging designs. Inspired by Parisian haute couture, French swimsuits were made and tailored much more closely to the body, and they were as much about making a bold fashion statement as about functionality and practicality. However, they did have one big flaw, which was that they were made of wool and they tended to sag and lose their shape when wet. However, Britain took a lot longer to join the one-piece swimsuit trend because, according to their conservative tastes, the exposure of bare arms and legs was too scandalous. But with time, social norms yielded to fashion trends, and they also joined this trend. And that's actually one of the biggest positives about social norms versus fashion trends, since historically fashion trends have managed to break these barriers of social norms. During the early 20th century, swimwear evolved from a functional garment to a fashion statement thanks to prominent designers, for example Coco Chanel, who in the 1920s introduced a new swimsuit made from boucle fabric, almost blurring the lines between masculine and feminine. This marked a significant shift in swimwear's place in modern fashion. Meanwhile, in Cannes, boutiques like Lanvin, Molineux, Poiret, and Schiaparelli started showcasing stylish swimwear, blending haute couture with seaside chic. Meanwhile, in 1932, Elsa Schiaparelli further innovated swimwear with her patented backless swimsuits that allowed women to sunbathe without tan lines, thanks to its built-in brassiere. Technological advancements continued to transform swimsuits throughout the 1930s. In particular, latex yarn was invented in 1931, and it revolutionized swimwear because it allowed for swimwear to have elasticity, shape retention, and a lighter weight compared to the heavier, unpractical, saggy woolen swimsuits of the past. Combined with rayon, latex yarn enabled swimsuits to come in a much wider variety of colors and prints, finally reflecting the vibrant spirit of the era. By the 1940s, Christian Dior's new look revolutionized female fashion with the fuller skirts and nipped-in waists, which also reflected in swimwear, influencing swimwear towards a more hourglass-shaped and feminine silhouette. Now we are chronologically approaching our modern two-piece swimwear with the invention of Jacques Heim in 1932. He invented the Atom, which was the first swimsuit to show the midriff, and it was like two-piece. And 1932 society was not ready for the Atom. And even though it was publicly available already, he had to relaunch it in 1946. However, after 4 weeks, Louis Réard came up with his own new hot two-piece swimwear called the bikini, and it was even smaller than Jacques Heim's swimwear, and he publicized it, calling it the bikini, alluding to the Bikini Atoll atomic tests. Réard's creation was so daring that runway models refused to wear it, so he had a problem finding a model to showcase his design. Then he found Micheline Bernardini, who was a nude showgirl, and accepted to showcase his design in Paris. And she was 18 at the time. She confidently wore this bikini, and it was very widely publicized. The marketing was so successful that it became a sensation around the fashion world. Micheline Bernardini received 50,000 fan letters and became an icon. Despite initial resistance, throughout the 1950s, with the help of Hollywood stars like Brigitte Bardot, bikini finally gained popularity. Bardot's iconic appearances in films such as Menina, The Girl in the Bikini in 1952, and God Created Woman in 1956 propelled the bikini into mainstream fashion, symbolizing the shift from scandalous to everyday attire. Throughout this period, Hollywood played a significant role in the evolution and popularization of swimwear. There were these censorship laws called Hays Code that Hollywood would walk around to find solutions because it would restrict lingerie but not swimwear, which led to the visibility of swimwear and an increase of Hollywood stars wearing them on screen. Companies, of course, took advantage of this and co-signed some movie stars to show off their latest designs, and in the 1940s there was also an increase in pin-up girls wearing two-piece swimwears for morale-boosting images for soldiers. By the mid-1950s, Swimwear, including the bikini, was starting to be seen as a state of dress and not undress, according to Vogue, highlighting the increased acceptance of more liberated fashions within society. Although the bikini had seen success thanks to Bordeaux, the one-piece costume also became popular again thanks to relaxing fabric rationing and actresses like Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, Ava Gardner, and Grace Kelly, along with the popularity of pin-up girls revitalizing the style. Marilyn Monroe often wore glamorous swimsuits that highlighted her curves in films such as Some Like It Hot in 1959 and The 7-Year Itch in 1955. Her swimsuit scenes became legendary and cemented her status as a fashion icon. Elizabeth Taylor, another Hollywood legend, exuded elegance and sophistication both on and off screen in films like Suddenly Last Summer in 1959 and Cat on a Hot Tin Roof in 1958. Taylor showcased swimsuits that ranged from classic one-piece styles to more daring designs, often accentuating her hourglass figure and deep violet eyes. Ava Gardner, with her sizzling Hollywood presence, epitomized Hollywood glamour. Her roles in films like The Barefoot Contessa in 1954 and Mogambo in 1953 featured swimsuits that exuded allure and sophistication, influencing women's swimwear trends with their sleek and flattering silhouettes. Grace Kelly also left a mark on swimwear fashion. As a style icon both on and off screen, Kelly's swimwear choices in films like To Catch a Thief and High Society were elegant and refined, often featuring timeless designs that emphasize her classic beauty and impeccable taste. Brian Hyland's 1960s song Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini also had a profound impact on the popularization of the bikini, talking about a shy girl in a daring bikini. This song was so popular and groundbreaking, everybody loved it, and it made the bikini a symbol of summer fun and youthfulness. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, designers continued to experiment with the bikini and swimwears, and designers like Emmanuel Ungaro, André Courrèges, Giorgio Armani, Oscar de la Renta, and Calvin Klein all started selling ready-made swimwear by the 1960s. In 1964, the designer Rudi Garnreich launched his iconic topless monokini. And despite it being worn in 1964, I can't show it to you without censoring it because in 2024 I would get demonetized. Towards the end of the 20th century, women's swimwear became increasingly playful, bold and colorful, featuring high-cut bottoms and bandeau tops, and even matching sarongs. The television show Baywatch, first aired in 1989, repopularized the one-piece swimsuit thanks to its characters' bright red, high-cut swimsuits. It's so fascinating how fashion, but particularly swimwear, has been evolving with society's expectations and norms and the liberation of women and their rights. As they increased, swimwear got smaller and smaller. So I wonder what women would dress like if men didn't even exist, if patriarchy didn't even exist. We can only imagine we would be wearing all kinds of crazy things. That would be so cool in my opinion. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, remember to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, but all things fashion. And see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.